is the spice of our station.
Relax. Radio.
Welcome back to the show with me, Nick, keeping you company on Real Talk all the way until 6 p.m. That's right. We're talking about all the real things that is going on right now in the UK. Yeah, there's a lot of things that is being discussed, and we are definitely talking about a whole lot of things going on. And yeah, if you want to be part of the show, well, it is pretty simple. Hit me up on those numbers: 07852473473. Those are the magical numbers. You can always call us up, let us know what your thoughts are, or if you have anything that you want to talk about, well, feel free to come this way. I'll definitely be definitely talking with you guys. And also, don't forget, you can download the app from the Apple App Store or the Google Play Store to carry us all day, every day, 365, 24/7. And yet, that's right. We're talking about all things that is going on right now in the UK, and we're discussing all things that is going on. And yeah, like I said, looking at the situation, there has been a lot of report, with the vaccine centers and how the country is right now handling the situation of us finally getting out of a lockdown. I mean, a lot of people have been excited. I know I can definitely for a fact tell you a lot of people have been excited. And so have I. I mean, not being stuck at home anymore, being out with your friends, out and about, and not being required to wear a face mask. That's something you can definitely look forward to. I mean, getting back out onto the streets and getting to see, your old friends or people, you want to hang out with again. It's very important. I mean, with the way things are going, it's very, very definitely very important. And how the government is handling this whole situation. I mean, yes, there is going to be a rise in cases. That's a fact. That's something that will happen, and we can't really change that. But the way it is, the Prime Minister Boris Johnson has urged caution as most legal restrictions on social contact are lifted in England, and there are now no limits. That's right, you heard me right. There are no limits whatsoever when it comes to how many people can meet or attend events. So, according to how many people can go into a place, if they're, as long as it doesn't, I guess you don't get too stuffed inside there, there's no limit with that with whatsoever. But it's problematic because, look, the government will have to find a way to resolve this, because the way it is going to turn out, we will definitely be hit with a sort of rise in cases. So right now, face coverings, they said that there will not be any limits on how many people can meet or attend events, but nightclubs are going to be reopened at midnight, and table service will not be necessary in pubs and restaurants. I mean, that's a major improvement if you are talking about, major improvement when it comes to being completely out or about it. I mean, the government has been taking this seriously, and they have been talking about, releasing the lockdown. They tried to do it last month, but it didn't really work out. So they did push it back to the 19th of July. Well, today's the 19th, and we have come to that day, and today is the Terminus Day. So Boris Johnson is trying to make sure that he keeps his word with regards to that. And yeah, also looking at all these things, face coverings will be recommended in some spaces. I quote, again, in case you might have not heard me, face coverings will be recommended in some places and spaces, but not required by the law. So it's not going to be mandatory. You're not obligated to wear a face mask. If somebody tells you, hey, wear your face mask in public, well, you don't have to, unless, of course, you are in a certain space where, you're required to wear your face mask. Otherwise, you don't really necessarily have to even wear a face mask. So that is, there. And Vaccines Minister Nadhim Zahawi said the government experts have recommended that there's some under 18s that need to be vaccinated. They're saying, okay, right now, they have recommended that only some under 18s be vaccinated. And the Prime Minister is due to hold a news conference today, and they will be talking about this. And the Chancellor and the Health Secretary are self-isolating amid warnings that cases of COVID will surge. And looking into all of this, Mr. Zahawi said recently that he defended the U-turn, which saw the Prime Minister and Chancellor self-isolating after initially saying they would take part in a pilot program to take daily tests instead. So you can see, the way it is going out. And Mr. Zahawi insisted that Mr. Johnson only considered joining the pilot scheme, adding, no one is taking anyone for fools. I mean, yes, like I said, that's a very problematic thing. So Labour leader Sir Keir Starmer accused the government of chaos, confusion, and cronyism when the Prime Minister and Chancellor undermining the self-isolation rules at a critical point. And he said that a reckless free-for-all So I quote, this is what he said: a reckless free-for-all now risks plunging the country back into restrictions, and the government has once again lost control of the virus, and they need to think again on their reckless plan before it's too late, is what they said. So some scientists are predicting that the UK infection is currently at about 50,000 a day, could reach up to 200,000 a day later in the summer. And there are, talking with regards to this, they're saying, okay, well, the numbers of cases have come X, Y, and Z. This is where we are, so and so. And the number of cases are going to rise. I mean, how are we going to handle this if it goes to 200,000 cases a day? And this is something that these are just projected numbers that they are looking for in the summer. But with more than 68% of UK adults fully vaccinated, modeling suggests that hospital admissions, serious illness, and deaths from coronavirus will be at a lower level than in earlier peaks. So going on about this, I really don't know how they're going to handle this. But in a video posted on Twitter on Sunday afternoon, the Prime Minister said that now was the right moment to move to the final stage of England's roadmap out of a lockdown. I mean, it's ironic. The Prime Minister talks about all these things, and now he's in self-isolation. And he went on to say that if we don't do it now, we've got to ask ourselves, when will we ever do it? And he said this, adding that the virus would have the advantage of the cold weather in autumn and winter, and that we've got to do it cautiously. We've got to remember that this virus is sadly still out there, and the cases are rising. We can see the extreme contagiousness of the Delta variant. And that's, like I said, that's a very problematic issue right there. And how the government is planning to handle all of these things is definitely will have to be considered. I mean, I, for one, don't know what they're going to be doing with the number of cases rising, how they're going to be tackling this sort of issue, and how they are going to be, looking into this and diving into this. And Boris Johnson said all of these things. He's saying we have to be careful and that the virus is still there. And Nadim Zahawi, right now, he's saying that 90% of the most vulnerable had been vaccinated, and it was right for people to, I quote, personal and cooperate responsibility there over the measures such as wearing masks. So they should take personal and corporate responsibility. What he's hinting at is, okay, the general public and companies will have to enforce this, because under law, we've promised that we're not going to enforce this no more. But then, of course, they're saying, I mean, it's confusing. We're at that stand, you're in the fork in the road where we are not quite sure how we are gonna handle this. I mean, how are they even going to look into this is my concern. I mean, how the government is supposed to look into this. And Mr. Nadim Zahawi went on to say, that we're doing the right thing to get as close to as normal as possible and as quickly as possible. And that saying that the end of the school term would reduce the spread of the virus. So with regards to this, he also went on to say, Nadim Zahawi, all right, he went on to say the recommendations from the JCVI, or the Joint Committee on Vaccination and Immunization, about vaccinating, children aged between 12 to 17. I mean, that's a step forward. This is something that he discussed, and they're saying, okay, this is a possibility, and this is what we're going to do in the foreseeable future. We'll get more and more children vaccinated. So, I mean, look, a lot of people have been criticizing this move. They've not totally been on about it, and they've not totally been on board about it, because their concern is, okay, why are we getting these children vaccinated? Because look, it's already been stated that children are less likely to develop any sort of serious illness. Yes, there will be a sort of rise in cases, but then why aren't we giving these surpluses across to other countries and nations that require them more than us? So that's an interesting question, and I really want to know as well, Boris Johnson, what are you doing, and how do you expect to handle this? And with this regards, like I said, there's a lot of detractors when it comes to this, and not a lot of people are on board with this. And that one of them is also Labour leader Keir Starmer. So he's not totally about this particular matter. So with that regards, he has been against it. And looking at all these things, also the committee, the JCVI, has recommended giving the vaccine to children with conditions that make them vulnerable to the COVID. Children who live with someone vulnerable and those who are close to turning 18. So they're saying, okay, these are the people. And look, right now, people are going to be definitely, one thing for me, I feel nightclubs shouldn't be opening anytime soon right now, because that's like a very super enclosed space. You're in an enclosed space with so many other people around you, breathing down your necks, but rubbing your bodies all together. And, it gets hot and sweaty and all of that. There is definitely going to be a chance of the cases rising. So I really don't know how the government's take on this is, and how they think, okay, this is a good idea. So as restrictions ease in England, businesses such as these nightclubs and large events will be encouraged to use the NHS COVID pass. So they're saying, okay, they're encouraging a lot of these establishments to, okay, go ahead, move forward and use these NHS COVID passes to check people are fully vaccinated, they have the natural immunity from these infections, or have a recent negative test. So at a fever in Leeds, the owner Terry George said several customers were unvaccinated and only had one jab so far, and he added the government had not provided the tools to scan for vaccination status. So that's just another problem right there. And a lot of these club goers said that they were a little nervous. Most were overjoyed. Yes, I understand. You're going to be a little nervous about it. You're going to be a little afraid, but most of you will be really happy to get back in and about it, back in the clubs, back in these nightclubs. But people are saying, for one, there is a girl named Molly actually went on to say, I quote, "It's been literally the best night of our lives, and we've been waiting for this since we turned 18, and this has been like life has come back to normal all of a sudden." And this is just, it's unfortunate for people to go back. Look, the clubs and all can always wait. Yes, your social life will not go anywhere, and people are going to be depressed and sad. They need some way to, I guess, channel the stress and the problems that they're facing. But look, it's not a great idea with the way things are going. I don't really think that opening nightclubs right now is the greatest of ideas. So yeah, a lot of people were happy about it. They did go bonkers, and there was a lot of confetti and all the celebration, people jumping about, shouting that it is, Freedom Day. But I don't really think we will ever be free right now until we get the vaccine out of the country and I make sure everyone is vaccinated. So that's just an important outlook right there. And the UK-wide guidance recommending travel against, traveling to these amber list countries is also being removed. So right now you can't travel to these amber list countries except France, because France right now is having a surge in cases of the Delta variant. And with that regards, adults who have been fully vaccinated in the UK will not have to self-isolate for 10 days after visiting these countries, with, like I said, the exception of people returning back from France to England, Scotland, or Wales because of the concerns of this beta variant and the Delta variant surge as well. So as the legal requirement for the masks and signs at Manchester Piccadilly station urge travelers to continue to wear them, but several people have actually been declining to wear these masks. So we will definitely be talking about this, how passengers have been confused over these mask rules as we go along in the show. So keep it locked right here on Relax Radio, RELAKS, and also checking your time right now. It is 4:26. Good evening.
The valuations that you place on an asset are always behind you. It's always in hindsight. It's never in front of you. And that's one of the challenges, right? Because you're always valuing what happened yesterday. And what you need is what's going to happen tomorrow. What am I saving or investing for? Why am I doing it? When will I need the money? And how much money do I need? Yeah. So that's quite important, because when you're looking at your net worth, you've got to start with saying, well, what do I want my net worth to be, so that there's a goal, and then work backwards. How do I get there? And if I can start with £50 or $50 a week, if I save that every week, and you can go online and use calculators online. I don't have to teach you the maths behind it, but you can say, okay, and if I get a 3% return and I put this away for how long will it take to reach my goal? And that's called just it's basic cash flow projection calculations. And it's what we use in financial planning all the time. What we say to clients is we say, okay, what is your goal? What is your objective? Where do you want to go to? And we discuss that in a lot of detail and over most of the meeting. And then the rest of it is saying, okay, in your exact circumstances, with your risk profile, with how you feel about investments and pensions and taxes and where you are and who you work with, and your education level or your lack of education or how involved you want to be. There's a lot of variables that we take into account, and then we say, okay, here's a plan. You start like this, that's great. And then we review it all the time. And we say, okay, we need to increase it, we're on track, we're not, this is what is happening. Because remember, when you're dealing with assets, the valuations that you place on an asset are always behind you. It's always in hindsight. It's never in front of you. And that's one of the challenges, right? Because you're always valuing what happened yesterday, and what you need is what's going to happen tomorrow. so that's a struggle. Yeah. So there are strategies everywhere from £50 a week up to £100 million pounds, and they're different. Right? They range differently from everyone, but and from country to country. To be fair, different countries have different tax laws, so different vehicles. But from your point of view, at the sort of normal end, I'm not going to call it the low end because I'm in that boat as well. It's as tax efficient as you can get it. That's where you start. You use all the tax efficiencies, and then you step up into different things.
Again. But now, if you say to a child, if I went up to a child and said, you've had one to forget, God, there'd be an inquest. Why did you reject my son? Well, I haven't rejected your son.
I want to talk about, how the generation gap, has how much it's changed, especially when you check the youth nowadays in comparison, to people back in the day.
I'd say when I was younger, it was more disciplined. Not now.
In comparison to now.
Not at all. Not now. The way things are nowadays, the younger generation, you seem that they can't accept the word no. If that makes sense. They can't
accept rejection, essentially, is all you're trying to say.
Yeah, they can't accept the word no. So if you, how did I do? Or you didn't do very well, and they get upset. And when I was a youngster, my father used to say to me, because I used to be sport mad when I was very young, well, still am sport mad, but like participating in different sports. And if I had a bad game, for example, he'd say to me, you had one to forget. That's it.
That sounds like a smart guy. I mean, yeah, that's the real fact of the matter, yeah.
He'd say to me, you had one to forget. Get over it. And that was it. So I dust myself down and do it again. But now, if you say to a child, if I went up to a child and said, you've had one to forget, God, there'd be an inquest. Why did you reject my son? Well, I haven't rejected your son. Or daughter. I've just told them that they need to buck their ideas up.
That's the truth right there. I mean, if you think about it, if you check the generations, like right now in the US as well, I've seen a lot of these things as well. In the UK, you get medals for participation. But what's the point? What are you trying to? Yeah, what's the point? Either you win or you lose. People are so afraid to put that whole notion of losing. When it comes to right now, the generation gap is just crazy. How much a lot has changed. Social media has taken control of our lives, and we don't even realize it anymore. We're crippled because of it.
That's absolutely right, Nick. Because, as you said, nowadays it seems that you get rewarded for failure. For the life of me, Nick, I can't get my head around that. Perhaps I'm just getting old and morbid. I don't know. I just can't get my head around how you could be rewarded for failure.
Hold up, if you wanna go and take a ride with me, better hit me, baby, one more time.
More variety than you can imagine.
Relax Radio.
Welcome back to Relax Radio with me, Nick, keeping you guys company all the way until 6 p.m. That's right. We're talking about all things that is going on right now in the UK. There's a lot of things being discussed and being talked about. And with one of that, we were talking about how the COVID situation rather, in the country is changing. And in case you guys are wondering, there's a lot of these talks as well happening. And I really don't know what the government is thinking about releasing all of these restrictions in the nation. So just in a little, I mean, look, if you're going to go outside, make sure you wear your face mask. Make sure you at least try to sanitize. I mean, I don't know about social distancing, if that is a possibility, especially if you're going in public transport, but that is something, at least if you can consider doing it, well, why not try doing it? I mean, what's the harm? What are you going to lose? Is my question. Are you going to lose anything if you do, if you are, social distancing or still trying to follow the rules? Because look, you're trying to safeguard yourself as much as you can. So try as your best if you can. I mean, you don't necessarily have to, but then at the same time, it's better safe than sorry. And just like that, if you are having anything that you want to talk about or anything on your mind, well, feel free to hit us up on those numbers. It is 07852-473-473. That's right. You can always call us up and let us know what your thoughts are on particular matters that is going around in the globe right now. And also we're talking about other things as well, how climate change is going on. And in case you guys are wondering, I saw this interesting article actually online the other day about how the Amazon region is actually emitting more carbon than they are absorbing. So that's problematic. I mean, it's unfortunate. This was supposed to be a sinkhole. It was supposed to be a carbon dioxide sinkhole, and now what's happening is the Amazon is emitting more carbon than it is absorbing. So that's very unfortunate, unfortunate turn of events. So the deforestation and climate change are altering the Amazon rainforest's ability to soak up this carbon. This is what new recent studies have uncovered. And significant parts of the world's largest tropical forests have started to emit more CO2 than they absorb. And like I said, this is very problematic. I mean, when I saw this story, right, I saw this story on Instagram, and I was wondering, how it is unfortunate. This ties back to the peatlands in Scotland. In Scotland, the peatlands, they're saying right now, is emitting more carbon dioxide than it was supposed to, and it was supposed to be a sinkhole. And now you can see there's other places like the Amazon forest, the rainforest right now. It's emitting more carbon dioxide than oxygen. It's emitting more carbon dioxide than it's absorbing, and that's very problematic. And right now, significant parts of the world's largest, rainforest has been emitting a lot of this CO2. And the Southeast is worst affected, says a lot of these scientists as well, with higher rates of tree loss and an increasing number of fires. And these temperatures have risen by 3 times the global average during the hottest months. So, I mean, look, global warming is definitely happening. I mean, no matter what you want to say about it and how you want to go about this topic, global warming is a very pressing matter. It is happening right now. It's happening at a very rapid pace. I mean, it might not look like it's affecting your immediate vicinity, but you have to understand it is affecting us as a whole. As a whole, we all are feeling this, and this is very problematic. I mean, look, when you look at it as a whole, right now, the whole world is suffering from this. And areas of the planet that absorb more carbon from the atmosphere, for example, in the form of these greenhouse gas CO2, then they store are also known as sinks. So right now, a lot of these places, that these spots, these sinks, they've saying right now what's happening is because of the CO2 emission, how the levels are rising in the environment and how deforestation has been affecting a lot of these places, these sinks as well. It's because of this. What's happening is, instead of actually absorbing more CO2, it's releasing more than the amount that it absorbs. So that's very problematic right there. And the role played by these lands and forests on Earth right now is soaking up carbon has been a critical factor in preventing the faster rates of this climate change. So this was, in a way, inhibiting the point where we are going to reach that point of no return. So what it's doing is these big forests as well, its major role, what it's playing at is that it is reducing the amount of carbon dioxide, being emitted in the air. So right now, since the 60s, these sinks have been taking in around at least 25% of carbon emissions from the use of these fossil fuels. So look, because of that, technologically we have advanced, and the government right now has been taking a look into this, and a lot of the government and when it comes down to the COP26, a lot of these other governments as well will be taking part in this. The UK, which is the UK right now, the UK is steering right now this year's COP26. So they will be discussing about this, and they will be looking for better alternatives when it comes down to transitioning from these vehicles that depend on fossil fuels to more electric, more environmental friendly vehicles. So that's just one of these things, that they will be discussing and they will be looking on. And because of this growing ongoing impacts of climate change and deforestations, they are taking a very heavy toll on the crucial CO2 sponge. So I mean, when you really look into it, right? If you take a literal sponge and then you see you put it inside a bottle of water, or rather a bucket of water, and you put that sponge and you hold the sponge in and you put it in, it absorbs water. But right now, what's happening is instead of actually absorbing that water, it's emitting more water. And I know that's scientifically not really accurate. How does sponge release water? Well, that's just graphical representation of what I'm trying to explain right now. And it shows that instead of absorbing the carbon dioxide, it's emitting even more into and onto the environment. So earlier this year, a study actually showed that the rainforests in Brazil released about 20% more CO2 into the atmosphere than it took in over the period from 2010 to 2019. So there was a recent newspaper also article where they discussed about this. They underlined that the changes and the finds that some of these regions of the rainforests were a steadily increasing source of carbon dioxide between 2010 and 2018. So a source of carbon is an area of the earth that releases more carbon than it stores. So the researchers used aircraft to take around 600 air samples above selected parts of the rainforests over the years of the study. And they found a very clear division between the eastern and the western parts of this rainforest. So this is a big, huge impact. I mean, taking into consideration how this is affecting us as a whole, there's going to be repercussions. There's going to be consequences. And how the governments right now are taking a handle on this, because look, we have other countries as well, developing countries like India, countries like Sri Lanka, countries like Bangladesh, Pakistan, all of these countries that are developing, countries like Indonesia, Malaysia. These are just a couple of countries that I've named that are dependent on fossil fuels. So how they are going to take a look into this and make sure that they stop as well, because look, even China right now, the world's when it comes to CO2 emitters in the world, China is also one of the leading countries across the globe. So they will also need to take part in this. They will need to find a way and and implement strategies and action plans rather, to help and make sure that we don't cross that, the threshold, the end point, because this is the problem. What happens is if the global warming does happen, if even more the temperature rises to a point where we cannot get back to normal, well, 1.5 degrees Celsius, that is the threshold right now. If we reach that point, what's going to happen? It's going to have very devastating effects across the globe, and then we will reach that point of no return, and the world will suffer as a consequence. Look, ecosystems will die out. People, when it comes to a lot of these things, people will be affected in very, very various ways as well. So this is very problematic when it comes to the oceans, the forests that we see. We will be affected by this in the long run. So yeah, that's going to be very problematic indeed. I hope that, like I said, this and a lot of this and a whole lot more will be discussed by the UK, especially in the COP26 when the exhibit happens. All these other countries as well will be taking part in it. Hopefully China will be there, although they've extended an invitation to China, but China has not responded as of yet. So we don't really know what is going to happen when COP26 does happen at around, in just a couple of more months. So let's see how it goes. But with that being said, we are going to be taking a real quick break and taking a look at your time right now. It is 4:42. Good evening.
The valuations that you place on an asset are always behind you. It's always in hindsight. It's never in front of you. And that's one of the challenges, right? Because you're always valuing what happened yesterday. And what you need is what's going to happen tomorrow. What am I saving or investing for? Why am I doing it? When will I need the money? And how much money do I need? Yeah. So that's quite important, because when you're looking at your net worth, you got to start with saying, well, what do I want my net worth to be, so that there's a goal, and then work backwards. How do I get there? And if I can start with £50 or $50 a week, if I save that every week, and you can go online and use calculators online. I don't have to teach you the maths behind it, but you can say, okay, and if I get a 3% return and I put this away for how long will it take to reach my goal? And that's called just this basic cash flow projection calculations. And it's what we use in financial planning all the time. What we say to clients is we say, okay, what is your goal? What is your objective? Where do you want to go to? And we discussed that in a lot of detail and over most of the meeting. And then the rest of it is saying, okay, in your exact circumstances, with your risk profile, with how you feel about investments and pensions and taxes and where you are and who you work with, and your education level or your lack of education or how involved you want to be. There's a lot of variables that we take into account